Danny Carter was 7 years old, and he lived on a planet that was not Earth. His home was on New Montana, a farming colony on the outer rim of human space. The planet had two suns, purple grass and skis that turned orange every evening. Danny thought it was the most boring place in the entire universe. His father, Ben Carter, worked the fields every day. He grew strange vegetables that Earth people paid good money for. His mother, Kate Carter, used to be a scientist who studied alien life, but she gave up that job when Danny was born. Now she helped on the farm and took care of their small home. Danny loved his parents, but he wished for adventure. He read stories about space explorers and brave heroes. He dreamed of finding new worlds and meeting aliens. But New Montana had no aliens. At least, that was what everyone believed. The colony had been on the planet for 30 years. In all that time, no one had ever found intelligent life. There were strange plants and small animals, but nothing that could think or talk. The scientists said the planet was empty. Danny thought that was sad. The only thing Danny loved more than adventure stories was his stuffed astronaut toy. It was old and worn. The fabric was faded, and one of its button eyes was loose. But Danny never let it out of his sight. His grandfather had given it to him before he died 3 years ago. Grandpa Joe had been a real astronaut. He had traveled to distant stars and seen things most people only dreamed about. He gave Danny the toy on his 4th birthday and said, "This little astronaut went with me on every mission. Now he will go with you on yours." Danny carried the toy everywhere. He called it Captain Star. One evening, Danny was playing near the edge of the farm. The two suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. His parents were busy in the barn, preparing for the next day's harvest. Danny was alone, sitting on a rock and making Captain Star fly through the air. That was when he saw it. At first, Danny thought his eyes were playing tricks. Something moved in the tall purple grass near the fence. It was quick and silent, like a shadow come to life. Danny stood up and looked closer. The creature stepped out of the grass, and Danny forgot how to breathe. It looked like a cat, but it was not a cat. Its fur was see-through like glass, and light seemed to flow through its body. It had 4 eyes that glowed soft blue in the fading light. Its tail was long and split into 2 at the end. It was the most beautiful thing Danny had ever seen. The creature looked at Danny. Danny looked at the creature. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then the creature ran forward with speed Danny could not believe. Before he could react, it grabbed Captain Star from his hand and darted away toward the forest. Danny stood frozen for 1 second. Then he screamed, "No, give it back." He ran after the creature. The fence around the farm was there to keep people safe. Beyond it lay the forest, a place no colonist was allowed to go. The trees there glowed in the dark, and no one knew what lived inside. Danny's parents had warned him 1,000 times to never cross that fence. But Captain Star was on the other side now. Grandpa Joe's gift was being carried away by an alien cat. Danny found a gap in the fence where the metal had bent. He squeezed through without thinking. He did not look back at his home. He did not think about the danger. All he could think about was his toy. The forest swallowed him like a hungry mouth. Inside, everything was different. The trees were tall and thin, with bark that shimmered like silver. Leaves hung down like curtains, glowing soft green and blue. Strange sounds filled the air, clicks and hums and whistles that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Danny kept running. He could see the creature ahead, its glowing body moving through the trees like a ghost. It was fast, but Danny was determined. He pushed through bushes and jumped over roots. His lungs burned and his legs ached, but he did not stop. The creature looked back at him sometimes. Danny could swear it was checking to make sure he was still following. That was strange. Why would it care if he followed? Time lost all meaning in the forest. Danny did not know if he had been running for minutes or hours. The two suns had set completely now, but the forest was not dark. Everything glowed with its own light. the trees, the plants, even the ground beneath his feet. Finally, Danny burst into a clearing and stopped. Before him stood something impossible. It was a building, but not like any building he had ever seen. It was made of black stone that seemed to absorb the light around it. Strange symbols covered its walls, carved deep into the rock. Half of the structure was buried in the ground, like it had been there for thousands of years. The alien cat sat at the entrance. Captain Star was still in its mouth. Danny walked forward slowly. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. He was scared, but he was also curious. What was this place? Why had the creature brought him here? The cat dropped the toy on the ground. It nudged Captain Star toward Danny with its nose, then looked at the building and back at Danny. Danny picked up his astronaut. The toy was not damaged. He held it close to his chest and felt relief wash over him. But the cat was still looking at him with those 4 glowing eyes. It wanted something. "What?" Danny whispered. "What do you want?" The creature turned and walked into the building. At the entrance, it stopped and looked back at Danny. The message was clear. "Follow me." Danny thought about his parents. They would be looking for him by now. They would be scared and worried. He should go back. He should run home and tell them what he had seen. But something inside him said no. Something told him that this was important. This was the adventure he had always dreamed about. Danny took a deep breath and followed the alien cat into the darkness. He had no idea that this single choice would change everything, not just for him, but for his family, his colony, and perhaps all of humanity. The inside of the building was not what Danny expected. He thought it would be dark and scary, like the haunted houses in his story books, but it was filled with soft light that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The air was warm and smelled like flowers after rain. The alien cat walked ahead of him, its glowing body leaving a faint trail of light. Danny followed, holding Captain Star tight against his chest. His footsteps echoed on the stone floor. The sound made him feel very small. The hallway was long and covered with strange carvings. Danny saw pictures of creatures that looked like the cat but bigger. He saw images of stars and planets and things he could not understand. Whoever built this place had wanted to tell a story. Danny wished he could read it. After what felt like a long time, the hallway opened into a large room. Danny stopped and stared. The room was round and high, with a ceiling that disappeared into shadow. In the center was a raised platform made of crystal that glowed with pale blue light. Around the platform stood dozens of alien cats. They were all different sizes, some as small as kittens, others as large as dogs. Their 4 eyes watched Danny as he entered. He should have been afraid. He was surrounded by creatures he did not understand, in a place no human had ever seen. But Danny did not feel fear. He felt wonder. The cat that had taken his toy walked to the platform and jumped up. It looked back at Danny and made a soft sound, like a bell ringing underwater. Danny walked forward slowly. The other cats moved aside to let him pass. When he reached the platform, he saw what they wanted him to see. Lying on the crystal was a much larger creature. It looked like the others, but it was the size of a lion. Its fur, which should have been clear and glowing, was dull and gray. Its eyes were closed. Its breathing was slow and weak. Danny understood. This was their mother. Around the mother were machines made of the same black stone as the building. They had tubes and wires connected to her body. Lights flickered on some of them, but most were dark. These machines were supposed to keep her alive, Danny realized, but they were broken. The small cat that had led Danny here jumped down from the platform. It walked to one of the dark machines and put its paw on it. Then it looked at Danny with those glowing eyes. The message was clear. "Help us." Danny felt tears form in his eyes. He was just a kid. He did not know how to fix alien machines. He did not know anything about medicine or technology. What could he possibly do? But then he thought about his mother. Kate Carter used to study aliens before she became a farmer. She had machines and tools in the basement that she never used anymore. Maybe she would know what to do. Maybe she could help. Danny looked at the dying mother and made a decision. "I will come back," he said to the cats. His voice was shaking, but his words were strong. "I will bring help, I promise." The cats seemed to understand. They made soft sounds and touched his legs with their noses. Danny felt their gratitude like a warm wave. He ran. Back through the hallway, back through the glowing forest, back through the gap in the fence. He ran faster than he had ever run in his life. His lungs screamed for air. His muscles burned with pain, but he did not stop. When he burst out of the forest, he saw lights moving in the distance. Flashlights, people calling his name. His parents were looking for him. Danny ran toward the lights, shouting, "Mom, Dad." Ben Carter reached him first. His father grabbed him and held him so tight that Danny could barely breathe. Kate was right behind, her face wet with tears. "Danny, where were you? We were so scared," his mother cried. "I am sorry," Danny gasped. "But you have to come, you have to help. There are creatures in the forest and they are dying." His parents looked at each other. Danny could see they did not understand. He took a deep breath and told them everything. He told them about the cat that stole Captain Star. He told them about the chase through the forest. He told them about the ancient building and the dying mother and the machines that did not work. When he finished, there was silence. Ben shook his head. "Danny, there are no intelligent aliens on this planet. The scientists checked everything before we came here." "They were wrong," Danny said. "Please, Dad, I'm not making this up. They need help, they need Mom." Kate was quiet. She was looking at Danny with a strange expression on her face. Finally, she spoke. "Show me." Ben grabbed her arm. "Kate, you cannot be serious. It is dangerous out there." "Our son ran through that forest alone and came back safe," Kate said. "If there are creatures out there that need help, I want to see them. I did not become a to ignore first contact." Danny's heart filled with hope. His mother believed him. Ben looked at his wife and his son. He saw the determination in their eyes. He sighed and nodded. "Fine, but we go together and we go prepared." They went back to the house. Kate went to the basement and pulled out boxes she had not opened in years. Inside were medical tools, scanners, and equipment for studying alien life. Ben gathered supplies, food, water, lights, and tools. Within an hour, they were ready. Danny led his parents through the gap in the fence and into the glowing forest. Kate gasped when she saw the bioluminescent trees. Ben held his flashlight tight, even though they did not need it. "This is incredible," Kate whispered. "How did we miss all this?" "We never looked," Danny said. "We stayed behind the fence." They walked for a long time. Danny was tired, but he kept going. He had made a promise and he would keep it. When they reached the clearing, Ben stopped dead in his tracks. He stared at the ancient building with his mouth open. This is impossible," he said. "This structure must be thousands of years old, maybe tens of thousands." Kate was already walking toward the entrance. The alien cats appeared at the doorway, watching the humans approach. When they saw Danny, they made happy sounds and rushed to greet him. Kate laughed with joy. Tears ran down her face. "They are real," she said. "Danny, they are real." Danny smiled. "I told you." He took his mother's hand and led her inside. The real work was about to begin. Kate Carter stood before the dying creature and felt the weight of the moment. In all her years of studying alien life, she had never seen anything like this. The being before her was beautiful and strange, a form of life that everything scientists thought they knew about this planet. The alien cats watched her with their four glowing eyes. Danny stood beside her, holding Captain Star. Ben was examining the ancient machines with his flashlight, his engineering mind already trying to understand how they worked. Kate knelt beside the platform and opened her medical bag. She pulled out a scanner and waved it over the creature's body. Numbers and images appeared on the small screen. She studied them carefully. Her body is shutting down, Kate said quietly. These machines were keeping her alive, but most of them have failed. She does not have much time. Danny felt his heart sink. Can you save her? Kate looked at her son. She saw the hope in his eyes and felt the weight of responsibility. She was not a doctor. She had studied aliens in laboratories, not treated them in the field. This was beyond anything she had ever done. But she also saw the alien cats looking at her. They had watched their mother grow weaker for who knows how long. They had been helpless. And then Danny had come, and they had brought him here because they had no other choice. Kate took a deep breath. I will try. She worked through the night. Ben helped her by examining the machines and figuring out how they functioned. They were incredibly advanced, far beyond human technology, but they were also very old and many parts had worn out over the centuries. The alien cats brought Kate things from deep inside the building, strange tools and glowing crystals that seemed to have power stored inside them. Kate did not fully understand how these things worked, but she learned quickly. She always had a gift for understanding alien technology. Danny stayed by his mother's side the whole time. He held her tools when she needed them. He brought her water when she was thirsty. The alien cat stayed close to him, seeming to draw comfort from his presence. As the night went on, Kate learned more about what was wrong. The mother creature needed energy to survive, but the machines that gave her that energy had stopped working. Without them, her body was slowly fatting away. Ben figured out that the machines were powered by a crystal core deep inside the platform. The core was cracked, and its energy was leaking out instead of flowing into the mother. If they could fix the crack, the machines might work again. I can do it, Ben said. I need to seal the crack, but I will need materials from our farm, metal and adhesive, things we use to fix our equipment. Go, Kate said. Danny and I will stay here and keep her stable. Ben looked worried. He did not want to leave his family alone in this strange place, but he knew there was no other choice. He hugged Danny and kissed Kate, then ran out of the building and into the forest. Hours passed. Kate worked without rest, using every trick she knew to keep the mother creature alive. She connected her own equipment to the alien machines, creating a bridge between human technology and ancient alien science. It was rough and imperfect, but it worked. Danny talked to the alien cats while his mother worked. They could not speak, but they seemed to understand him. He told them about his grandfather and Captain Star. He told them about Earth and humans and why his family had come to this planet. The cats listened with their glowing eyes and made soft sounds that felt like answers. One cat in particular stayed very close to Danny. It was the same one that had stolen his toy. Danny decided to give it a name. I will call you Comet, he said, because you are fast like a shooting star. Comet made a sound like a happy bell and rubbed against Danny's leg. When the first light of dawn crept into the building, Ben returned. He was sweating and breathing hard, but his arms were full of supplies. He went straight to the crystal core and began working. It took him 3 hours to seal the crack. He used metal patches and special glue that could handle extreme heat. The alien technology was strange, but physics was physics. A crack was a crack, no matter what planet you were on. When he finished, something amazing happened. The crystal core began to glow brighter. The machines around the platform hummed to life. Lights that had been dark for centuries flickered on. Kate watched her scanner with wide eyes. Her readings are improving. The energy is flowing again. She is getting stronger. The alien cats began to make sounds, not the soft bells from before, but something louder and more joyful. They ran around the room and jumped on each other. They were celebrating. Danny laughed and cried at the same time. Comet jumped into his arms and nuzzled his face. The cat's fur was warm and tingly, like touching a gentle electric current. Slowly, the mother creature opened her eyes. They were large and golden, like twin suns. She looked around the room and saw her children first. Then she saw the three humans standing beside her platform. She should have been afraid. Humans were strangers, unknown beings from another world. But she was not afraid. She felt what her children had felt. These creatures had come to help. They had worked through the night to save her life. They had asked for nothing in return. The mother made a sound, deep and resonant, that filled the room like music. Kate's scanner went crazy, showing energy patterns she had never seen before. The walls of the building began to glow brighter. Then something even more incredible happened. Symbols appeared in the air above the platform, made of pure light. They formed pictures and patterns that seemed to tell a story. Kate stared in wonder. It is a message. She is trying to communicate with us. Danny stepped forward. He was not scared. He felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. "Hello," he said to the mother creature. "My name is Danny. We are here to help." The golden eyes looked at him. The light symbols changed, forming new patterns. Kate watched them carefully, her scientist mind working to understand. "I think she is saying thank you," Kate said softly. Danny smiled. "You are welcome." The mother made another sound and the symbols changed again. This time, they showed images of the planet as it was long ago. Cities of crystal, creatures like these cats walking among beautiful gardens, a civilization that had thrived for thousands of years. And then darkness, disaster, the cities crumbling, the people dying. Only a few surviving, hiding in this building, waiting for help that never came. Until now. Danny understood. These creatures had been alone for so long. They had almost given up hope. But then a little boy had chased an alien cat into the forest, and everything had changed. He looked at his parents. Kate was crying. Ben had his arm around her, his own eyes wet. "We found them," Danny said, "and now we have to tell everyone." Kate nodded. "Yes, we do." The mother made one more sound, and the symbols formed a single image. It was a picture of a human hand and an alien paw, reaching toward each other. Friendship. Danny reached out and touched the mother's face. Her fur was soft and warm. Comet made happy sounds beside him. This was just the beginning. The news spread across New Montana like fire across dry grass. Within a day, everyone in the colony knew what the Carter family had found. Scientists came from the research station on the other side of the planet. Government officials contacted Earth. Reporters tried to reach the farm, but Ben kept them away. Kate stayed in the ancient building with the alien creatures. She learned that they called themselves in their own language. The mother's name translated roughly to Keeper of Stars. She was the last adult of her kind. The smaller cats were her children, the final generation of a dying species. They had lived on this planet for over 20,000 years. Their civilization had been great once, with cities that touched the clouds and ships that sailed between stars. But a terrible sickness had come, something their medicine could not cure. One by one, they had died. The survivors had retreated to this building. Hopping their machines would keep them alive until they found a cure. But the cure never came. The machines began to fail. Hope faded like light from a dying star. Then the humans arrived. They watched from the shadows as strange beings built farms and homes on their world. They were afraid at first. They did not know if these newcomers would help them or hurt them, so they hid and waited. For 30 years they watched. The Keeper of Stars grew weaker. Her children grew desperate. Finally, the youngest of them, the one Danny called Comet, decided to take a risk. He stole a toy from a human child, hoping the child would follow. Hoping the child would be kind. It was a gamble that paid off beyond anything they could have imagined. Kate shared this story with the Colony Council. They listened in silence, their faces showing wonder and disbelief. When she finished, the head of the council, a woman named Grace Miller, spoke. "What do they want from us?" Kate shook her head. "They do not want to take anything from us. They just want to survive. They want to live alongside us in peace. and they have so much to offer. The new things humans did not. Their ancestors had mapped every corner of this planet. They knew where precious minerals hid underground. They knew which plants could cure diseases and which could kill. They understood the weather patterns and the seasons in ways human scientists were only beginning to learn. But more than knowledge, they offered friendship. The Keeper of Stars made this clear through her light symbols. They had watched humans for 30 years. They had seen families laughing together. They had seen neighbors helping neighbors. They had seen children playing and growing and dreaming. Humans were strange, the Keeper said. They were loud and messy and sometimes cruel to each other, but they were also kind. They built things. They fixed things. They never stopped trying even when the odds were against them. When a human boy chased a child into the forest, he did not bring weapons. He brought love for a simple toy. When his family came to help, they did not demand payment. They worked through the night because it was the right thing to do. They had waited 20,000 years for beings like this. They did not want to wait any longer. The Colony Council voted to accept them as citizens of New Montana. It was the first time in human history that an alien species had been granted equal rights on a human world. The decision was not easy. Some people were afraid. Some did not trust creatures they did not understand. But most of the colonists remembered why they had come to this planet. They had come to build a new life, to escape the crowded cities of Earth, to create something better. They wanted the same thing. How could they refuse? Ben Carter led the team that restored the ancient building. With help from he learned how their technology worked. It was based on crystals that stored energy from the twin suns. Properly maintained, these crystals could power machines for thousands of years. The colonists began using technology on their farms. Crops grew faster and healthier. Water was purified without chemicals. Energy flowed clean and endless from crystal collectors. Within a year, New Montana went from a struggling settlement to a model of sustainable living. Danny became famous. He was the boy who had made first contact, the child who had chased an alien cat and found a lost civilization. Reporters came from Earth to interview him. Scientists wanted to study him. Politicians wanted to shake his hand. Danny did not care about any of that. He just wanted to spend time with Comet. The child had become his best friend. They explored the forest together, discovering wonders that no human had ever seen. They played games that combined human toys with crystals. They communicated without words, understanding each other in ways that adults could not explain. Kate became the leading expert on biology. She published papers that changed how humans thought about alien life. She developed medicines based on knowledge that cured diseases thought to be incurable. The scientific community called her a genius, but she always gave credit to those who shared their wisdom. The Keeper of Stars grew stronger every day. With proper care and restored machines, her health returned. She began to leave the building sometimes, walking through the colony with her children around her. The colonists learned to love her. They brought her gifts and asked for her blessing on their homes. She blessed everyone. She had waited so long for kindness. Now that she had found it, she wanted to share it with the whole world. One evening, Kate sat with Danny and the Keeper of Stars outside the ancient building. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in colors that had no names in human language. Comet was curled up in Danny's lap, purring like a small engine. Kate asked the Keeper a question that had been on her mind for months. Why us? You could have reached out to the scientists or the government. Why did you choose a child? The Keeper made her light symbols, and Kate translated them slowly. Children do not know how to hate yet. They see wonder before they see danger. They ask why instead of saying no. Your scientists would have wanted to study us. Your government would have wanted to control us. But this child wanted to save a toy that his grandfather gave him. He showed us what humans truly are when nothing is in the way. Kate thought about this for a long time. She looked at her son, who was stroking Comet's glowing fur and whispering secrets that only they could share. "He changed everything," she said. The keeper's golden eyes seemed to smile. "No, he showed us that change was possible. The rest we did together." Danny looked up at his mother. "What are you talking about?" Kate laughed. "Nothing important, just how proud I am of you." Danny smiled and went back to playing with Comet. He was 7 years old when he chased an alien cat into the forest. He had no idea that he would grow up to do even greater things. But that is a story for another time. 15 years had passed since a 7-year-old boy chased an alien cat into a forbidden forest. The universe had changed in ways no one could have predicted, and Danny Carter had changed with it. He stood now in the Great Hall of the United Colonies Council on Earth. The room was vast, with seats for representatives from every human world in the galaxy. Thousands of eyes watched him from the curved rows that rose toward a ceiling made of glass, showing the stars beyond. Danny was 22 years old. He wore a simple gray suit, the traditional clothing of a diplomat. In his pocket, hidden from view, was a worn stuffed astronaut with a loose button eye. He never went anywhere without Captain Star. Beside him sat Comet. The had grown over the years, now reaching Danny's waist when standing on all 4 legs. His fur shimmered with light and his 4 eyes glowed with intelligence and warmth. He was not a pet. He was Danny's partner, his co-ambassador and his closest friend. The head of the council, an old man named Peter Grant, called for silence. The murmurs faded. Danny felt his heart beating fast in his chest. This was the moment he had been preparing for his entire life. "Ambassador Carter," Peter said, "you may address the council." Danny stood and walked to the speaking platform in the center of the hall. Every step felt heavy with history. He was about to speak words that would shape the future of 2 species. 15 years ago, Danny began, his voice clear and strong, I was a child living on a small farming colony. I had no power. I had no influence. I had nothing but a toy that my grandfather gave me and a heart full of curiosity. He paused and looked around the room. He saw faces from dozens of worlds, humans who had never known Earth, humans who had never left it, and humans from everywhere in between. I chased an alien cat into a forest because it stole something I loved. I did not know what I would find. I did not know that my actions would lead to this moment. I was just a boy who wanted his toy back. Some people in the crowd laughed softly. Danny smiled. But here is what I learned on that day and every day since. Connection does not require understanding. Kindness does not require agreement. Love does not require similarity. They are nothing like us. They see the world differently. They think differently. They live differently. But when I looked into their eyes for the first time, I did not see strangers. I saw beings who felt pain and hope and fear and joy just like me. He gestured to Comet, who stood and walked to join him at the platform. The touched Danny's hand with his paw, a gesture of unity that the whole galaxy now recognized. Today, I ask you to do what my family did 15 years ago. I ask you to reach out to the unknown. The wish to formally join the United Colonies as a member species. They do not want to be protected or controlled or studied. They want to be partners. They want to share their knowledge and learn from ours. They want to help us reach for stars we never thought we could touch. Danny reached into his pocket and pulled out Captain Star. He held up the worn little astronaut for everyone to see. My grandfather gave me this toy before he died. He said it went with him on every mission and now it would go with me on mine. I did not understand what he meant then. I was 4 years old. How could I have a mission? He looked at the toy, remembering his grandfather's face. The memory was faded but warm, like sunlight through old glass. Now I know. My mission is the same as his, the same as every human who has ever looked at the stars and wondered what was out there. We are explorers. We are dreamers. We are builders of bridges across the dark. Danny put Captain Star back in his pocket. He stood tall and spoke his final words. The found hope in humanity. They saw something in us that we sometimes forget to see in ourselves. They saw our kindness, our courage, our stubborn refusal to give up. They waited 20,000 years for beings like us. I believe we are worthy of that wait. I believe we can be what they saw in us. He paused. The hall was completely silent. I vote yes. I hope you will too. Danny walked back to his seat. Comet walked with him, their steps in perfect sync. The council erupted in noise, cheers and arguments and conversations in a dozen languages. But Danny did not need to listen. He already knew how the vote would go. When the count was finished, they had been accepted into the United Colonies by a margin of 3-1. It was the largest majority for any new member species in the history of the council. That night, Danny stood on a balcony overlooking the Earth city that hosted the council. Comet was beside him, as always. The lights of the city stretched to the horizon, millions of humans living their lives below. We did it, Danny said softly. Comet made his bell-like sound and pressed against Danny's side. His light symbols formed in the air, a skill that adult could learn. Danny had learned to read them years ago. The symbols said, "You did it when you were small, everything else followed." Danny shook his head. "I was just a kid chasing a toy." Comet's symbols shifted. "That is why it worked. You did not know enough to be afraid. You did not know enough to hate. You only knew that something needed help and you could give it." Danny thought about this for a long time. He thought about his parents, who had trusted a 7-year-old story about aliens in the forest. He thought about the Keeper of Stars, who had almost died before a human child found her. He thought about all the bridges built and walls torn down in the years since. "Do you ever regret it?" Danny asked. "Stealing my toy, I mean. If you had not done that, none of this would have happened, but you also would have been safe, hidden." Comet's symbols took a long time to form. When they did, they were simple. "We were dying, Danny. Safety is meaningless if you die alone. You gave us life. You gave us family. We will never regret finding you." Danny felt tears in his eyes. He did not try to hide them. There was no shame in crying for joy. Back on New Montana, his parents watched the council vote on their small television. Ben cheered and Kate cried, just like she had cried in that ancient building 15 years ago. The Keeper of Stars was with them, her golden eyes glowing with pride. Around the galaxy, humans celebrated together. On New Montana and Earth and a dozen other worlds, two species raised their voices as one. The sound echoed across the stars, a message for anyone listening. "You are not alone, we are here, and we want to be friends." Danny looked up at the sky. He could not see New Montana from here, but he knew it was out there, circling its twin suns. His grandfather had traveled to distant stars and dreamed of contact with alien life. Now his grandson had made that dream come true. Danny pulled out Captain Star one more time. The old toy was worn and faded, barely holding together. But it had made the journey from Earth to New Montana, from a child's pocket to the greatest moment in human history. "We did it, Grandpa," Danny whispered. "We did it." Comet made a soft sound, and Danny felt his friend's warmth beside him. The stars shone bright above, full of mysteries waiting to be discovered. The universe was vast and strange and beautiful. And humanity was no longer exploring it alone.